Hello, welcome to part 2 of Business Foundations in the Face of COVID-19. I'm your host, Aaron Eden, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Community Investment Corporation. My why, or the reason that I believe that I exist around here, is to help others to innovate, to help them make a huge impact in their own lives and ultimately make the world a better place. So love that kind of stuff. At CIC, our vision is to create a better life for Tucson residents and folks in the region by investing in the lifeblood of our economy, which is small businesses and nonprofits that are really doing the hard work of serving our communities and supporting entrepreneurs and again, making the world a better place. That's going to be the theme here. So wanted to let you guys know that are on the live show right now. You have a handy dandy little question section, or actually, no, I'm going to talk about the poll section. You've got a poll section that I'd love for you to use. Notice on the bottom right, there's a little spot that says polls, and right now it's got the number 3. If each of you would please go in there and just take a moment to answer those polls, those will help Tony and Amber and myself learn a little bit more about you so that we can tailor our questions to your needs and make sure that we're speaking to our audience rather than just full of assumptions. And I'm going to kick things off by introducing Tony. So Tony Ford is the Chief Operating Officer at Magnitude Management. And for more than 20 years, he has recorded quantifiable achievements driving sales and operational strategies and assessing business needs to develop amazing and optimal solutions. And
blah blah blah. That sounds like a lot of jargon.
No, seriously, he's just kicking ass, and you can tell by the jargon in his bio that he totally gets marketing.
That's a keyword in bio right there.
Yeah, exactly. He's worked in pretty much any industry you can think of and has significant depth of expertise in e-commerce and e-tail, and has sort of an affinity for launching businesses focused on women. And he's pretty damn funny too. Tony Ford.
Thank you.
We'll dive into that more.
Amber next.
What's that?
You want me to follow up, or are you going to do Amber?
No, we'll see where that goes. Thanks for having us, or thanks for joining us, Tony.
Just very, very quickly, my focus today is going to be, as we talk about this, is because I'm not constrained by any board of directors or vision or mission of any organization. I'm just going to tell you what I see, and it's not always going to be pleasant. So I will leave. I know Amber is awesomely positive in pushing these businesses forward, and I may be a little bit of the negative side of that, but it's only to get people motivated, Amber. I just want to say that.
That's why we wanted both of you guys here. It's a good yeah.
I'm here to learn from Tony, so.
In the other thing for our audience as well is I started to mention that there's a questions section, and we'd love to hear from you throughout this conversation. So please do post your questions in that questions area. If somebody already posted one that you were thinking about asking, vote it up, and we will do our best to get to those questions as they fit nicely into the conversation. And so our second guest is Amber Smith. She's the CEO of our local Tucson Metro Chamber. And she is an incredible collaborator above all else, and believes that we can work through pretty much any problem through discussion, respect for different opinions, and by finding common ground. Her mission and her passion projects. I cannot talk today. I think I don't drink anymore, but it feels like I should go grab a drink. Sorry, Amber. My passion projects include workforce development, housing affordability, and overall bringing people, businesses, and groups together to solve complicated problems to create impact. So welcome, and thank you for joining us, Amber.
Thank you. And as you highlighted, I work to solve problems by aligning with people smarter than me. So I'm going to let Tony guide this conversation, and I'll feed into some of it and offer the sunny outlook every now and then when I feel like he needs to just, settle down a little bit.
Don't let it only be the Tony show. We're in for a rough afternoon if you do that.
Collaboration is key, Amber. I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool. So let's kick things off. What are some of the top things that entrepreneurs or business owners should be focusing on now? Tony. All
right. So here's the underlying spine of what I hope to talk about today as we chat, and that is if you're in the position I'm in, trying to look at what I need to do for my business right now, I need to plan that this is the normal for 2 years, and that we're in a recession for 2 years after that. I realize that's scary. And I know everyone's waiting for May, and maybe things will open, and somehow everyone's going to sprint back to the businesses. But if you prepare for, and take action for a worst case scenario right now, you're just going to be stronger if it doesn't turn out that way. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that in the history of the United States and the history of the world, we've never developed a vaccine for a coronavirus. So we're going to have to stretch our scientific ops. I know that we don't know a lot about this disease or how it's affecting our society. I know that the economy is very uncertain, but we're in a recession, and nobody really noticed that we're in a recession because we went home. So I guess the starting point would be plan for 2 years of this, maybe not stuck in the house, but this, and start taking action today on that being your reality. Get past denial and bargaining, grieve the old, move on to acceptance, and get started today on this being the new reality.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tony on that point as well. We're looking at the same way, 18 to 24 months. My only little positive sunny outlook on this is so far from what I've heard is manufacturing, aerospace and defense and construction haven't been hit as hard. And we have luckily diversified our local economy way better than we did when we entered the last recession, when we were so dependent on only construction and hospitality. So I think that's just one tiny saving grace that hopefully will make it to where we don't rebound at the slowest in the country. But I agree, this is the new norm. Absolutely. And we need to figure out those innovative ways to pivot, to recognize who your new customer is. What does that customer look like? How can you address those needs? And how can you operate in this new environment?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It opens up a great deal of opportunity if you're looking for it. So as an example, people are spending 46% more of their day on Facebook than they used to. But all the big brands pulled back on advertising because they're uncertain and they move slow. So the cost to bid on those ads is much less expensive than it was a month ago. And there's so much more ad inventory that it's even farther less expensive. So now is the time to push. It's not the time to wait and see. So if you can go after a new customer, pivot your offering, think about a new pain point, all these kids at home trying to do homeschooling, all these people at home cooking who frankly bought rice and beans and then realized they didn't know how to cook them. So they had to go out and buy frozen pizzas, right? I mean, if you're a chef, there's opportunity. If you're a restaurant, there's opportunity to ship kits and do subscriptions. If you can pivot to delivery, those are the kind of things. Where is the new pain in the new version of normal? Because the big companies have not totally adapted yet. Amazon, Walmart, some of those players, yes, but most companies are stumbling right now. And that's the perfect chance for you to pivot and use less capital to get more growth.
Yeah, 1000% agree. Those companies that can be nimble and can be reactive like that and innovative are certainly going to be those that win.
Can either of you share an example of a business that you've seen that's doing that well, or a story of something that you're living that exemplifies that?
So I have a client who is in the animal feed space, and not only did we spend the last year, moving her online sales from, we think we've grown them by 600 or 700% to drive-through, pre-order, pickup on her websites. So that she doesn't have to deal with the folks who are worried about going to a retail store. So she has a drive-through set up. She is allowing order on the website, pick up from the drive-through for free. She's leveraging that e-commerce capability and all the content we built to serve a local audience. And that's a pretty smart move to try to shift. She actually set up the drive-thru around her building, just like a fast food restaurant. So people pull up in the truck, they load it up, they drive by. And I suggested she should partner with a food truck and, stick a taco truck at the end of the driveway or something, because if you can make it a one-shot deal, right? It's entertainment, it's going out, it's getting something to eat, right? However you can think about it, people are stuck in the house. And if they're leaving to go get hay and feed and chicken scratch, make it more of a pleasant time.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you guys jump straight into the future and not into the past. But there's one thing that I heard come up as I asked entrepreneurs, what they'd like to learn from this prior to this session, and one of the things that I heard from a lot of entrepreneurs was, I'm stuck right now. I've got floods of information. I've got tons of people trying to help me out. They're sending me information nonstop. But like this moment, I'm totally overwhelmed, and I'm not sure which direction to go. And so to me, that's like, it's almost like mourning, right? Like there's a bit of transition right now as we transition from where we were to where we are now. And there's a little lag there, right? For us emotionally, especially as entrepreneurs, they get so passionate about the things we're doing. So any suggestions for folks that are kind of feeling stuck, or, what's an example of a time where either of you has had to work through that, and how did you get yourself unstuck?
I think it's important to just stop. I mean, there's a difference in stopping, taking a breath, looking around and surveying the land, than just being stuck. I think that you really do have to, at times slow down to speed up, as the saying goes. And pre-COVID, because of the economy, we were all moving so quickly and living in the moment and really making those decisions to where you weren't able to be as strategic and long-term thinking as you could be, because you're so busy trying to make today's deals because there were so many. Now is the time to kind of take a breather, slow down, take a breath, and really look at what the future is and target what that goal is, and then start building those steps and clearing your mind of all of the noise.
Yeah, I think there's that moment to analyze that Amber's talking about. And if you take, you don't need to have the perfect answer. Perfect is the enemy of done. But what you do need to do is not jump on the first answer. So if you can jot down, here's what I know. Here are 5 things I think I can do. Let me take the time to analyze which one I should pursue first. And then once you've taken that time and you've worked through it, move forward. But set it, time box it. You'll get stuck in analysis paralysis if you go too long. And yet if you just keep moving and never take the time to look at the lay of the land, then, right? So you have to find this balance and pick an arbitrary number. It's not important. There's no perfect answer. I think in computer science algorithms, there's an optimal stopping number of 9, but you don't need 9. Take 5 paths that you can pursue, 5 things you can do, 5 next steps for your business. Lay them out, rack and stack them, figure out what's going to be the best play, and go attack it. And Aaron, as you and I have talked about a lot in the past, set a prediction for if it works or doesn't, and hold yourself to it.
We try not talking on mute. I started this role with CIC around the beginning of the year, and as I was exploring what I should do next, I was in this situation where I had basically like a few weeks of personal runway to be able to make a decision. And I sat down with everybody that I could think of and brainstormed with them. Hey, what are the things I should be considering? What should I look at? What should I explore? And what I had done in that point is I said, I have 10 days to fill my whiteboard with opportunities, good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. Fill my whiteboard with opportunities. And then from that, I'm going to narrow the field down to a top few and start exploring those in more detail. And It worked amazingly for me personally. It also worked wonderfully for my wife, in that she knew, like, here's how long he's going to be exploring that stuff, and I can sort of let go a little bit. I know all of us entrepreneurs have other people in our lives that we've got to keep abreast of what's going on and involved in those decisions. So it's not just all about us.
The other thing I would look at is we are making a lot of mistakes of assuming the old paradigm. And I'll give you an example that would be a little hard for them to switch, but they should switch it immediately. If you do delivery, grocery pickup from Walmart, they have you sign the phone of the person who's dropping off the pickup. That is an old paradigm left over from paper. There is no reason I shouldn't sign my own phone. There's absolutely no reason for it. It's a significant change to their app, but it's a small example of, if we keep thinking about the world the way it was, the old normal, we don't recognize the new opportunities. And the new opportunities, people are going to be getting more delivery. They're going to buy more online. Remote work is obviously going to open up, and it may open up for a long time. I saw Mark Zuckerberg in an interview they said, when are you going to bring people back to the office? And he said, last. That was his answer. He's like, we don't need to work from anywhere from home to bring people back to the office. They've banned meetings of 10 or more until June of 2021. Okay, so think about how this normal opens up the acceleration of change, how delivery and online entertainment and online collaboration has to change, how software has to change, how much more we have to pay attention to our health. We're not going to go to gyms, but if we don't do workouts, we're going to get sicker, right? Even if it's not from COVID, it's from something. So, and if we're not going to doctor's offices to get checkups, right? So how is personal health going to be impacted? There's a tremendous shift in opportunity, but it requires you really spending the time to think about this new normal, right? I jokingly call it like the mask dystopia, right? Everyone's got to wear a mask, and it's like some sci-fi movie. But that's the truth. There's some new normal there. And if you take the time to think about it, you can envision in that world what pain exists, and then you can go test it.
Amber, what are you seeing from business owners? Good, bad, or indifferent? What are some patterns that you're seeing?
So a couple of different observations. One, all of our surveys that we have taken, the two primary concerns, one, cash flow, right? Not rocket science there. But number two is morale. That has been the second to most impactful thing, is the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty, my employees, my own livelihood, my family, my kids are now, what does that mean for their education? So how we've been trying to address that is one, communicating out the information to them. I mean, the chamber, our job is to connect people, connect businesses, connect to resources, connect to government. And then the second part is we've been lucky and grateful to be a part of so many of the benevolent activities that are occurring. So those large businesses that, while they are also greatly being impacted, how they are giving back to support other businesses. So as an example, we have the Barrio Brewery Foundation. They contributed $25,000, of which they came to us with that amount of money and said, we want to be able to help displaced restaurant workers, something that they really sympathized with in their own industry. So we brought in our partners at Greater Tucson Leadership, and we were able to collaborate and facilitate purchasing gift cards from our local grocery stores here and being able to distribute them to those restaurants that had that were placed in the unfortunate position of all of those layoffs. So we saw that. We saw El Charo do something similar for first responders, hotels opening up their doors for healthcare workers, those that need to be quarantined because they don't want to go home to their family and risk infection. There are so many of these different efforts to where, whether or not our federal government responded appropriately, we can all debate that all day long, and some of the facts will be right and some of the facts will be wrong, because what are considered facts these days, we don't even know what that foundation is. But regardless of those politics, I think people are being kinder to each other. I mean, I'm attacked on social media all of the time, and every now and then I'll choose to engage, and sometimes I ignore it. And what I'm seeing is now with the attacks, it is so much more constructive and positive, that I think that is a really nice byproduct of all of this. And maybe some of the tone and tenure, I mean, like Tony pointed out, like, I'm the eternal optimist, is possibly the tone and tenure of people with differing opinions might change. I don't know. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable disagreeing with people and doing it in a respectful manner. I like watching a lot of what Tony puts up, and Justin Williams and stuff like that, where I can really learn a ton. But I think that's what I'm seeing is there's large businesses out there, and even small, trying to support each other. Small businesses reaching out to each other. We stood up a restaurant advisory council group, so we have restaurants all convening together, saying, okay, how can we help each other? What best practices have you guys implemented? And that's the world that I enjoy seeing.
I think Amber brings up a good point, and if we look historically, I read a book on the 1918 flu pandemic because I thought it was an interesting historical study, right? But if you also look back at the 40s during World War II, or even the 30s during the New Deal, how did we pull together in the Great Depression? How do we pull together in the face of war as a country, as communities? We know how to do this. I know we've forgotten because it's not in our lifetime, but it's not the first time that we've had to do this. And some things that I think help a great deal as a business owner to boost the morale of your employees that we've put in place. One, we're very honest with employees about our revenue goals, our cash flow situation, right? We're not scaring them, but we're saying, look, here's our goals. We need to hit it right. Right now we're on track, or we're a little behind. What can we do to pick it up? Because we said from the get-go that our goal was not to lay anybody off. And so far we've been able to pull that off. But we're honest and upfront. We're not hiding a lot of that from them, right? We're working through it as a team. All of the ownership in the company that I'm in has put in 3 times more money than they've taken out in the last 60 days. So we've loaned our company's money to float that difference because we couldn't count on things like paycheck protection or whatever else, right? And if you're in a position to do that, that's important. The other thing I would say is that if you're in a cash flow crunch, I understand it's tough, but one of the things we did for our employees that I would recommend people look at is get a concierge physician who can do telemedicine and make that a benefit. If your employees don't have to go to a doctor's office, they can call someone day or night, 24/7 on Skype. If the kids get an earache, whatever, and have prescriptions written and telemedicine handled, that takes a whole nother level of stress off of the employee. And that's always been a part of our package as a concierge physician. There's several of them in town. I work with Ohana Direct Primary Care. I like them, but there's several different companies. And the final thing is, think about how you can double dip. So, for example, you might have neighbors in your neighborhood that you're older folks, whatever you're concerned about them going to the grocery store. You can buy restaurant gift cards and give them to your neighbors. The neighbors get food and the restaurants get paid, right? There's ways to double dip and make your dollar go even farther for positive impact. So be on the look for those. They're out there. And then of course, Zoom happy hours and allowing people to be a little goofy and understanding that everybody is going through grief right now. The whole country is simultaneously grieving what we lost. Mm-hmm. And they're all at different stages, and you can't rush the grieving process. So understand the people around you are grieving, and sometimes they're anger, right? That's the phase they're in, Amber, and they're just mad at everybody and right. The government and
Tony,
businesses and leadership. What?
I said that's what Tony said.
Yeah, right. But we're moving into bargaining, and now we're talking about how fast can we open up and how many people would it kill, right? I mean, that's bargaining. We see it. You can watch it. People go through the phases of grief. We will get to acceptance and we'll be better, but you can't rush it. So just understand that your employees are grieving too, as well as being under stress financially.
One of the questions that someone suggested in advance of this session was, are you cutting your own salaries, or the executive team Tony, have you and John cut your own salaries? You said you're loaning the company money. Have you had to cut salaries too?
It's not so much cutting the salary as if I take out $1, I'm putting back in $3 out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Because that's the right way to track it as a loan on the books, is the money I still get paid, but then I have to loan it back to the company against future profits, right?
Makes sense.
But yeah, so essentially every owner in my company has not been paid for 2 months because we're getting paid, but we're signing it back over.
Yeah.
That's what it took for us. We're in an early growth stage and we're very aggressively building our company. And not everybody is able to do that. We were fortunate enough that we had a very good year in 2019. And instead of taking all those profits out, we used it to build another company because we were looking ahead to a recession. We didn't know when. 2020, 2021, we were trying to get ahead of the recession.
Amber, are you having to deal with any of that, executive pay cuts or anything like that, or seeing that with local businesses needing to do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't hardly know anyone that's not having to go through that, including ourselves.
Yeah. I had a feeling that was probably the case, but I think for entrepreneurs, hearing others say it, like it's something that should be on the table.
Can I just say, honestly, right now, the banks have kind of locked down. Credit can be difficult to get. So one of the reasons you may take money out as an owner is because you might put, say, advertising on your personal credit card and assign the debt over to the company and take $1 out in cash, but turn credit into, there's a lot of ways to manage cash flow once you start thinking through. And again, I'm not an attorney, not an accountant. You should talk to your accountant, your attorney. But the truth is, when you get backed into a corner, you got to figure things out, right? And so you have to bring everything to the table that you can. For some companies, that may be furloughs, or it may be non-paid time off or things like that. But for everybody that you can, not mess with their personal cash flow, you've got a much more happy and satisfied and hopefully, actively participating team member when they're not dealing with the financial stress themselves.
Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur. I have gotten somewhat through the grieving process. I've paused a little bit. I've looked around to see what's going on. I've got a few options as to where I want to head. What else should I be doing?
Oh, I want to piggyback just on a really small part of what Tony said.
Please do.
And that is establishing those bank relationships. And I don't mean borrowing money, but I can tell you that those companies that have that long-standing positive relationship with a particular banker that has traveled from bank to bank to bank, but they've always stuck with that banker, those are the ones that got funded first, regardless if they were a small client or a big client, because they had that relationship. So I think that one of those first steps is, if you don't have a strong relationship with a banker, is you ask around as to who is good and you start establishing that.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
I think that applies to so many things, Amber. In this town, I always joke that in Tucson, if you burn a bridge, you can't get out of town.
1,000%.
This is a network-driven town, and guess what? Even the rest of the country, what I've found is entrepreneurship business is network-driven. So hand out those favors, call people and help them, offer free consulting to people, whatever you can do to build those bridges, because, man, you're going to need that support network in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The sugar high is ended, and now we're seeing where we're going to go. But we were on a sugar high for a while, and now you're going to need people who've got your back.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny in the audience is asking, what is the risk of pivoting too quickly, going and changing your business or maybe industry that has been working in order to be able to adjust to the new norm?
So provided you're not completely abandoning all infrastructure, right? I mean, if you're doing something that's really capital intensive, I could see that's more of a risk. But for most companies, you should be able to pivot back if the world changed back. And I don't think it will, but if it did, because again, I can't predict the future. But I would say your bigger risk right now is not moving quickly, because as I said, the whole country is going through grief, and they're all going to hit acceptance at about the same point. And you may not feel like you're there yet, but you can act like you're there yet. So I don't ever try to be the smartest person in the room. I just try to be 2 weeks ahead of the bell curve, right? There's a big bell curve coming through the country, and everybody's going to go, oh, we have to completely rethink our business in another 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is. And when that happens, it's going to be chaotic, and there's going to be a whole lot of players. So I would say start using test balloons, business experimentation, do it, fail those things fast and cheap, try little things, test things out. You're not going to pivot really until you know you can scale, until you prove something. But you can test 5 things in the next 5 weeks, right? And you can know something makes money. Yep. And 4 things don't. Right?
Or more.
Or more, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, the weirdest thing. So as an example, I do a lot of e-commerce work. When we first launched the product that we're selling now, which is a menopausal probiotic for women, that my wife founded this company along with another woman and a researcher. We only had about a 1.5% conversion rate, which is not good for those of you who know e-commerce. The one thing we did two changes. We took a bunch of the research text off the page and made it 1 click deep, so it was easier to read. And then we changed the top header of the Your Cart screen to say Your Cart. And that took it from 1.5% to almost 5% conversion. Those 2 changes. And the abandoned carts went from 80% to 26% by changing the text to Your Cart. 2 words. You don't know what's going to work. That's why you got to try a bunch of little things in a way you can measure them. And I've been doing this for 20 plus years. The market surprises me every day. I think I know something and I go in and test it, and the market proves to me that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, Tony, that you didn't know to put My Cart at the top of the My Cart page. That's,
I thought Shopify would have defaulted that, but they didn't. So yeah,
that's a good surprise. Amber, what's your take on potentially pivoting too quickly and having the world come back to normal, and now you're off in the woods?
Nah, I think it's just called diversification.
Diversification.
Yeah, I think that you're pivoting, and if you've come up with something innovative with your business model, that doesn't mean that you can't add things and pivot back. Like if you had that ability to pivot left, you should still be able to pivot right. And all you've done is be able to diversify your product line, your services, or how you do business.
Gotcha.
Well, and some of these things will create regulatory changes, right? Do any of us ever want to give up delivered cocktails ever again?
No.
No.
I already had that today.
Right? We've proven that can function in society. So why would we? I mean, there's things that have been the way they've been because they've always been that way, and now we have a reason to change them, and some of that will stick. Right?
Yeah, and something that we're even talking about is some of the labor laws, time and a half as an example. So you can be a company with 3 different entities underneath your umbrella and have an employee over at company A that's doing their 40 hours, but company B is asking for a little bit more help. And that employee is like, great, I need to pick up those extra hours. That would be fantastic. They know my schedule. They know me. I know their system. Well, that employer can hardly hire that employee and afford that time and a half. So now you've missed the opportunity both ways. An employee that wants to pick up the hours, an employer that wants to pay it, but it doesn't pencil to be able to pay it time and a half, so is that really the rule that needs to be in place? So I think that there's probably a few different ways to be able to, unwind some of these things that have made employers less able to help employees. It's unintended consequences.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A big shift in, we've got all these contractors and gig workers in the gig economy. I don't see that slowing down any. And I do see automation picking up at some point, right? If you can't have that many people. The other thing that I would, if you're an architect or an interior designer, get ready for the end of the bullpen office structure. Because I can't sit that many people there without plexiglass or something in between them. There's going to have to be some changes made. There's shifts even coming to the way we lay out offices, not let alone how we work in offices, right? So again, it's getting ahead of what's that new normal, right?
I like that. Just assume that many of those things are going to stay and keep moving that direction until you find out differently and continue to adjust. What about Amber on the advocacy side of things? Are there Are there things that your members are already asking about, similar to that point of, hey, some of these things that we've changed, we'd actually like to keep? So any of that you're seeing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sign code, right? Small but largely impactful for businesses. And I was on the front lines of working with the city and the county a few years ago on the sign code, which is the most miserable policy experience ever. And we fought tooth and nail to allow A-frame signs. And guess what? Still not allowed to use A-frame signs. Well, with COVID, we're able to bring them out so that you can have your, hey, we're still open. Well, what is the real danger with A-frame signs? Yeah, I mean, it's just little things like that have this negative connotation as to what that's going to mean for aesthetics or society, when really businesses matter and signage matters. It's really small and yet very impactful.
I do think you'll see also a shift towards more health and safety awareness of employers. Grocery store workers right now, having 10,000 people walk into Walmart doesn't make anywhere near as much sense as having people lined up in a parking lot and receiving delivery from one person with masks and a glove, right? For any of us, because 10,000 people handling the avocados doesn't make for a safer avocado at this point. So I think there's some shifts in how we think about safety for workers, what workers expect safety-wise, what customers expect. I'm shipping product all over the country. I have people who are temperature checked, wearing gloves, wearing masks, shipping that product. I can't be shipping potentially a disease vector to 50 states, right? And everyone on this call right now, I'm sure, is thinking twice about their Amazon packages when they get delivered. Should I spray it down? Should I leave it in the sun? Should I wash it off? Should I just wash my hands? We've not had to think about that before, which just very quickly brings up one other thing that I think we've missed that is important for you to consider when you're dealing with, especially with people in your company who make decisions. There's strategic thought or decision fatigue, right? There's only so long you can engage in strategic thought without taking a break or having really weighty decisions without kind of losing some of your effectiveness, some of the efficacy. And every single person you're talking to, every decision they make carries moral weight right now. Do I take my kids to the park or not? Do I wash my hands after handling the avocados or not? Do I get my neighbor's mail or not? Do I say hi to my neighbor or not? Every decision has weight. That's exhausting. It really burns through a lot of your wherewithal mentally. So just remember that you are going to have to, it's going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more understanding with your decision-making teams or even with your middle management to make sure that you're coming to correct decisions, because you're kind of burning out that part of the brain right now.
So can I ask Tony a question?
Yeah. Go for it.
So I don't want to say come out of this because who knows what that looks like, who knows what coming out of this even is. But one thing that we've been discussing at the chamber is that toolbox for businesses. What I'm concerned about is whenever, like today, the governor said, okay, now elective surgeries, we can start having those again May 1st, right? So we are going to start seeing this sliding of industries being allowed to open their doors. What I'm wanting in addressing those health concerns is trying to create a, best practice model for each industry of, okay, retail, you now have to, there's going to be curbside pickup, summer's coming, make sure you have your shade in place, make sure that there's these masks wearing, things like that. What do you think of the idea of trying to identify those practices for that morale part that I brought up and being able to educate those businesses on how to be able to achieve that?
Yeah, I think there's some new services. Obviously, there's PPE services and things that have to come into place with the best practices around that. And then, anybody who's run a janitorial company, switching to a virus-based sanitation on a more frequent schedule. I mean, if I can go to my employees and say, look, yes, you're coming back into this workplace, but you will have PPE. We will have this, it will be deep scrubbed once a week. We will do a first thing in the morning, 15 minutes of everybody wipes it down with a viricide. There will be, antibacterial wipes and things like that available. Just reducing stress also reduces immune compromise, right? It's for a lot of people because your immune system can only handle so much stress. So just trying to provide the things that make people feel less stressed. I would look at not only the best practices, but the vendor list. Which janitorial services are offering that kind of service now? And frankly, can you be in business as a janitorial service and not offer it now?
Well, and I was thinking about that with car care, taking care of fleet vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Fleet vehicle delivery drivers, right? Yeah.
My other job is advising a local startup that's in the corporate travel management space, and I think to that end, we built out this pretty incredible COVID-19 travel map that basically lets you see how bad the infection and death rates and those kinds of things are in the area that you're traveling to. Be able to give a little bit of a visibility, maybe reroute yourself or something like that. But in the early days of this, the way we saw that was like, oh my God, this is an incredible way to help people today and could be a game changer for us in the future. But as time goes on, the more we look at it, I think it looks more like, wow, this is going to be table stakes, and this is actually what we have to be doing in order to keep people safe when traveling.
It went from a test to a value proposition really quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see more of that. I've been lucky in that my company's been able to work remotely since March 13th, something like that. And we've had people working from home, which has been both a blessing and a curse because some of our staff are getting a little stir crazy. But even then, we stopped all in-person client meetings March 9th. And I can tell you that our company will go back to the office later than most other companies. I know not every business has that luxury, but part of being a good community member is if you can, you should wait, because some people can't afford to wait, and we need to limit how much of that interaction is going on until we get more data, right? So if a company is a software company and you can stay remote longer. That's how you can help.
Yeah.
Figure out how to do that, because the person running a comic book store, they've got to have, they might do pickup, they might do e-commerce, they might do whatever, but they've got a storefront, and they're going to have to figure out how to do business. The fewer people who are milling about that aren't buying, helpful, right? So
on multiple fronts, for sure.
That's the other thing I would say to everybody. Like, if you've been waiting to get a website up, get a website up, right? If you've been waiting to try your hand at e-commerce, you need to start. I talk to people all the time. Are like, well, we mostly sell to Tucson. You probably can sell nationwide, and there are people who can do the pick and pack for you. There are ways to, there's a lot of ways to go about this. But for example, I told you that we sell a supplement. Amazon has 73% of every dollar spent in online supplement purchases. 73% of all online supplement sales go through Amazon. We're doing very well off Amazon, but we're pushing very hard onto Amazon, and it's a very complex process. You can't just start it and be selling today. There's a ton of work that has to be done. But the time to start that is now, not when you realize that normal is not going to come back in 3 months. Worst case scenario, you have an Amazon side hustle income coming in for your business, right?
Yeah.
You can sell online.
What are some examples of that Amazon process? I know there's a lot of folks in retail that are trying to figure that out. Can you share a little more about that since you're living it?
Yeah. So remember, and this is the thing, remember that Amazon has trained the customer to expect, if they don't like it, you're going to refund it. You're going to pay shipping both ways, or you're going to eat it, or right? Even if you think they're a scammer, like Amazon has set the bar very high. You're going to ship it in 2 days, right? You're going to pay for the privilege to sell on Amazon. You're going to pay for the privilege of advertising, and you don't even get a chance to bid on keywords until you've sold enough to prove to them that you're worth it. Like, it's a whole different ecosystem all to itself. Even just selling online, our small company, I mean, it's a few $1 million a year run rate right now. We're shipping 6 days a week. We ship within the same day shipping. We track the shipping. Every shipment gets a tracking number. If it's refused or there's something wrong, we refund the money for up to 90 days. No questions asked. Here's your full money back. Keep the product. Don't care. Keep moving, because that's the expectation. So you have to build that into your margins. Oh, by the way, it's all free shipping. I don't charge shipping, right? So you have to think through how does that all fit into a margin? You can't run really slim margins. If you're reselling commodities like, hey, we're all selling this mug, you have to be so lean that you can make money by costing out everywhere else. So I would look at unique products, high value proposition, high margin, really solve pain for people. That would be the space I would go into online. And if you don't have that, you're just a commodity seller. This is probably just speeding up the disintermediation that was going to put you out of business eventually. So pivot to something else.
Great. Thanks for the positive pushback, Tony.
Sorry. Look, business is hard, and it doesn't your customers don't care that, some of them do, but most of them don't, that you're having a rough time or it's difficult, you'd like to make more money, you really wish you could get a vacation. They just don't care. And the harsh reality is your competitors don't either at the national scale, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes, keep it local where you can. Yes, build a community here. I saw a guy say one time that he was a libertarian at the federal level, a Republican at this level, a Democrat at the city level, a socialist in his own household, and a communist with his dog. From greatest needs, from greatest people who have to who need. He said it depends on how close you are to the people. And I thought it was pretty funny, but it's also kind of accurate. Yeah, it's cutthroat on Amazon, and you can be more friendly with the people you're in business with here in the community. But when you expand out nationally, it's a hard knock game out there. So
yeah.
Just ready for that fight.
Yeah. So Amber, we've got to go somewhere positive with this conversation.
Bring it back around, Amber. Pull me out of the.
So hopefully entrepreneurs that are listening to this have some tools in their tool belt to help them through the morning process and to help them get strategic about where they need to go. And they've got some opportunities that they can go out and test, those kinds of things. What else should they be doing? What suggestion do you have for that entrepreneur?
Well, Tony hit on a big one that we really can't reinforce enough. This is a networking town. And for me, that doesn't mean going to every mixer. I'm a huge homebody, so I've been very happy with this work from home. Like, I've been completely comfortable, and that includes being here with all of my children and all of my animals and my husband and everything. And I'm still like, I'm kind of living the dream for me. And I show up on time to meetings, although I was a little bit late for you guys because of technology. But like, this suits me really well. But it's not necessarily the networking, it's the connections. It is absolutely reaching out to people you don't know. It is asking for those introductions because, again, you're gleaning information. Me, I'm an ideas person, but I'm not going to be like the idea of coming up with the solution, the inventions. For me, it's my ideas are being able to connect two points together in innovative different ways that haven't existed before. Like, that's how my brain goes. So of course, that's going to be my recommendation, is the more people you meet with and you have these conversations and you learn their background or how they got to where they are, and you meet great guys, like Tony, it makes a huge difference, because then, Tony can be in some conversation with one of his clients and be like, you know what, I just met this guy and he has this widget that I think would fit here perfectly. That is where, the magic comes together. And this town is so well suited for that type of magic. And, I've heard some people call it, Tucson is just a high school hallway, or it's the Kevin Bacon's 1 degree of separation.
Totally.
And true. It is absolutely true. Like, I'm not from here. I came here in college and never left, but I'm married to a Tucsonan, and holy cow, you can't go to Costco without running into half his graduating class. And that's how this town is. And it's so important to just be connecting with people, whether it's LinkedIn or conversations or introductions or coffee or Zoom or whatever. We cannot undervalue that.
There's only a million of us.
A couple times this week, I've set up just group Facebook chats between one person, another person. Just said, hey, you're the CRM guru. This person needs this. Just get them off and started. And that we need to just consciously do a lot more of that. right? And then if you see, you're going to see friends of yours who are business owners who are posting on Facebook, and you've been stalking them for years. You know when they're up and down. You know when people are not doing well. Reach out to them. Can we set up a Zoom call? Can I help you with the one thing I know how to do? Can we talk through half an hour of your time right now on a Zoom call, if you've got any area of expertise, is incredibly valuable to a business owner who can't afford to buy that expertise right now. And they need the knowledge to pivot. So, as much as we talk about money and cash flow, and as business owners, cash is king, and we understand that, your expertise is a truly fungible, valuable commodity that you can share. You have the time. You can only watch Tiger King so many times, and then you got to go back to doing some work. Call up your friends, find people on Zoom, offer to do 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It makes a big difference.
It's a thing for sure.
Absolutely. It's all about who you know. Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for spending the last hour of your day with us. If
work-life integration, I don't have work-life balance anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all integrated now. I had to take a break after the last one of these earlier to go deal with my 6-year-old that didn't want to do her schoolwork and try to work through all of that. So
my 10-year-old just came through the house screaming my name, and I was like, "Oh God, hopefully he won't find me."
Oh, good. The boundaries for what's acceptable on video are now different as well. So I think we're all good. So thank you again to both of you. If folks want to be able to get a hold of you afterward, what's the best way to reach you?
They can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm always building that, so they can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's Tony Ford Media, and then we can message there. We can set it up, or you can email me, Tony@magnitudemanagement.com.
Cool. Thanks,
for me, I just sat there and said networking and everything, and I am the worst on LinkedIn. Like, I have the connections, but I'll forget to go over there and check it. So email amber@tucsonchamber.org, or you can text me, which is really probably the most ideal way, 520-878-8811.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much. Good luck out there. Appreciate it.
A lot.
Same to all of y'all.